believes talks are ongoing for a move back to his homeland. And finally, in Rugby League, Australian standoff Trent Barrett is considering asking Wigan to release him from his contract due to family reasons. That's according to his agent. The former Test player is less than halfway through a 3-year deal at the JJB Stadium.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxford.
Well, it's not the best of starts to the day, but it will improve as it goes on. I think by late morning the rain should have left most of us, and from there onward the skies will brighten. We'll have nice spells of sunshine. The downside is there will be 1 or 2 showers, and I suppose they could be heavy through the afternoon, but your top temperature's not bad, 14 Celsius.
Have lunch with Allan Beswick.
Ooh, that's new, isn't it? Have lunch with Allan Beswick, as long as I'm not paying. Dear God, let's be fair here. Hello, how are you? Yeah, I am. I don't know why. Yeah, I generally am. I'm usually in a good mood. Today's no different. Yeah. Oh. So I've seen it. It looks like. Was it? When I say I've seen it, let's go steady here. It looks like. I don't know what it looks like. If you can imagine a square box, about 1.5 inch square, and about 3 inches long. But it's not a box because, well, it's not got a lid on it, otherwise the wee wouldn't go in. And it sort of ends up in a tube, a bit like Pinocchio's nose. And you shove it under your wedding tackle and leak into it, and then you can point with the spout. That was it. That's what all the fuss was about. Now, they say you don't have to take your kit off, but I don't think you can go through the zip and meander and meangle it in, as it were. I don't know whether to risk it, but it's not my problem. Anyway, there you are, so we've got that out of the way. And will people please stop sending me emails saying I think that woman was taking the... Exactly. Because it was so predictable that even I didn't use it. I mean, Eamon and Jimmy would have done, obviously, but even I didn't use it. So we don't need any more of that, thank you. The standard is low enough without you dragging it down. Exactly. 0161 228 2255 if you've got something to say. Doesn't matter what it's about. I'm open. I'll talk about anything. You know me, I'm not fussed. And then the email address, radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. And you can text, if you must, on 07786 206 951. That's it. So let's start with John in Lee. Hiya, John.
Hello, Alan.
What can we do for you today?
I want to just say a word about the teachers.
Please do.
I think they should get every penny what they're asking for, because they do a wonderful job. Now, you might wonder why I said wonderful.
Well, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. My son had a spelling test last Friday. Not my son, my grandson, sorry.
Okay.
He's 7-year-old. He got 10 out of 10. Correct.
Yeah.
The teacher wrote on the bottom of the page, "This is wonderful work. Well done." She spelled wonderful, WOUNDERFUL. Now, am I wrong, or is that right?
I've not seen that version of the spelling, that's for sure.
No, I don't think she's a foreigner or anything like that. You know what I mean?
It doesn't matter if she's teaching. She should be able to spell the language that she's teaching in.
No, I've not said nothing to the school or anything like that, but what I have done is found out whether it was an assistant. You know, these assistants.
Indeed, yes.
But I've been told they're not allowed to teach them how to spell.
Well, one would hope. It might have just been a slip of the pen. But I don't understand why you're saying that the teachers deserve to get the money.
No, that was just me being sarcastic.
Oh, that was sarcastic, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's beginning to make sense now, John.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean.
I do now.
Well, yes, they get a wonderful. It's a wonderful job. You know what I mean? They do a wonderful job. That's what I meant. Yeah. I was just getting to this word. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not the world's best speller, but I thought wonderful. I'm sure that's not right.
You would hope that the teacher would be. At least, but if not the world's best, then up there with the good uns rather than...
Well, I could understand it, Alan, if it had been the gym teacher doing it, you know, but it's a spelling test. It was a spelling test, the infants had, you know, the 7-year-olds.
And is that particular teacher on strike today?
No, the schools, this particular schools, they're all there, you know, they're all striking.
Right. Oh, well, good on you. Thank you for that, John.
Okay, then.
The standards are certainly not the word in my day. Thank you very much indeed. John in Lee, the teacher who marked his grandson's spelling test and gave the child 10 out of 10, said it was a wonderful result. WOUNDERFUL. Oh, dear.
Life and laughs with Eamon and Jimmy.
Just to let you know, I've given up the booze and I've started drinking brake fluid. My wife thinks I'm addicted, but I know I could stop at any point.
Eamon O'Neill and Jimmy Wag.
News that an electrician has been sacked by Her Majesty's Prison Service for refusing to repair the electric chair. He said it was a death trap.
Eamon and Jimmy.
Do you know what you said before about how does a blackbird know that a worm is in the ground?
Yeah.
Do you know what I think? My theory is when the blackbirds are about, the worm goes, I better stick my head up, see where that blackbird is.
If your radio sounds funny on Sunday morning, you must be listening to Eamon O'Neill and Jimmy Wag.
They're cool.
Sunday morning from 9.
At BBC Radio Manchester.
I love this. The government has dubbed Macclesfield MP Sir Nicholas Winterton Range Rover Man after he spoke out against higher car taxes. The Conservative MP is concerned about the impact of increased vehicle excise duty on large cars. There you are. Range Rover Man. Let us hope he can shake off the sobriquet at some point. All he has to do is drop it into third gear and put his clog down. I'm sure he'll shake him off eventually. Another John. This one's in Wigan. Hiya, John.
Hello, Alan.
What for you?
When you was a bus driver,
Yeah.
did you used to have a procedure when you took charge of a bus with regard to the state of the bus?
Yeah.
Well, I came from the concourse to my swimming this morning. Yeah. But when you coming up there, you know, there's music on. Anyway, there's the fumes were absolutely horrendous. Exhaust fumes. I mean horrendous. So I said to the pleasant driver, who was a nice bloke, I said, listen, lad, this bus shouldn't be on the road. He said, why? I said, well, there's people coughing their whatever at the back. Children on the bus. He said, oh, I'll report it when I get back. I said, it shouldn't go any further. Anyway, I got off. I took the number of the bus and I washed my hands. I wrote it on my hand, and then I rung GMA. I rung the Greater Manchester Passenger Transport Executive, and they said I had to ring another number, so I lost interest.
Yeah. Well, you would, wouldn't you, after all that?
What I'm saying is, when you said there was a procedure, you must have had them days, especially, you must have had those days, you must have had buses that were death traps, in a sense.
I don't think I ever drove, or indeed if the company...
Well, how would you know? Sorry, how would you know if there was exhaust fumes in a bus?
Well, as I say, I don't think I ever drove a vehicle that was a death trap. Whether there were exhaust fumes escaping into the bus, I probably wouldn't know on account of being sat at the front end and having no other member of staff with me. But if a passenger told me, I just might go and check.
Yeah, well, I've told him. He said he'd check it at the other end.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is...
That's possibly a bit late.
This woman was coughing at the side of me. I said, I'm surprised you're coughing, love. I said, can you not smell the fumes? They're always like this, she said. And they're always like this.
Well, she must express herself in whatever way she can. But
so she said that they're always like this.
Mm.
It's a particularly rough area of the world, I mean, so they probably shove all the rubbish buses. Digmore and Skem, they probably shove all the rubbish buses around there, so they're hoping to kill a few off. But anyway, I managed to survive, and here I am, Alan.
Right, well, I'm glad you've survived, and I hope the bus driver honours his promise to report the matter when he goes to the garage. You
would like a bet on that, would you?
I think he probably will. But I don't know. We've no way of checking it. So,
you know, basically what you're saying, you rely on the driver. You rely on passengers. They send buses out.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how you would have the body, the passenger element of the bus checked. I don't know how you would do that. Would you employ somebody to?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
no, neither do I.
The thing is, when I drive a forklift truck, and
it's not quite as long, is it? And you don't have many passengers.
No, have a good day.
Have a good day yourself, Ken. 0161 228 2255. Sarah, my apologies. Sarah from Earlham says, I've heard reports about people shouting racist comments in Manchester yesterday. We, however, did not hear about the ethnicity of the shouters or indeed the ethnicity of the people who took offence. Are we stuck in such a politically correct world that the news cannot be broadcast, that the news cannot broadcast the whole story? Could you please fill in the obvious blanks in this news report? Well, Sarah, what I can tell you is that I don't know where I've gleaned this information, but I have this morning gleaned the information, either from a newspaper or from our report, that 2 of the people who were abused were 2 Asian-looking, because we don't know, 2 Asian-looking women. Whether they took exception and complained, I don't know, so I can't clear it up any more than that. As to the people who were doing the shouting, all I've seen is a photograph of one, and he was a white male, which is, of course, the colour is the majority of our society. I don't know any more. Frankly, I suspect that the shouting was related more to booze than racism, to be honest. But what do I know? I wasn't there. And the arrests were not in any way related to racism. The arrests, as I understand it, were their failure to disperse. So a police officer or other legitimate individual can tell you to disperse, and if you do not, you can then be arrested because it is an offence at that point not to disperse when told to. So that's all I know. More than that, I cannot say, because I wasn't there. Mark says, is this now part of the tradition of St George's Day celebrations in Manchester city centre? Racist chanting and making Nazi salutes at passing Asian girls too. Same thing happened last year. I hope the council taxpayers of Manchester aren't making a contribution towards this event. Well, Mark, again, the event went off without any difficulty, and then some people went to the pub, got a bit drunk, I suspect, and, well, bad things were done. But you can't blame the event for that. I'm not a big one for St George's Day. I wouldn't bother with it. I wouldn't bother with St Patrick's Day, St David's, St Andrews, or any of the other lot. I think it's balmy. But if people want to march and say, I'm proud to be English and support the Portuguese bloke who we have as our patron saint, then I've no problem with that. Let them get on with it. I ain't going to join them, but let them get on with it. It's perfectly harmless. And if some of them then go on to get drunk, rather like football fans, rugby fans, cricket fans go on to get drunk and do something silly, who cares? 0161 228 2255. I can tell you I've got the press release here from the police, and I'm grateful to Faye for sending it to me. Yesterday, Greater Manchester Police were monitoring several civic centre pubs that were very busy with customers enjoying the St George's Day celebrations. The vast majority of revellers were well behaved, but at about 4 o'clock p.m, the police were informed that 30 to 40 drinkers had gathered at the Moon Underwater pub and the Mitre Hotel and were chanting racist and inflammatory songs. This, remember, is the GMP press release. A number of passers-by also reported that racist gestures had been made towards them. Greater Manchester Police respect the right of anyone to enjoy the St George's Day festivities and other national events. However, GMP will not tolerate racism in any form, and when the reports were made, officers acted immediately and a number of patrols were sent to the area. A total of 11 people, 9 men and 2 women, were arrested on suspicion of failing to disperse when ordered to do so by police. In addition, more than 40 notices to leave the pubs were served on those involved. The group dispersed and the situation calmed down thanks to the swift response of officers. Patrols remained in the area throughout the course of the evening, so there you are. So the only information we have to give you, the only formal information, is that which is contained within the police report. So we've given you everything that we've got. And frankly, I don't know what more you want. But there you are. That's the answer to your question. And again, thanks for the news team for providing me with that bit of information. 0161 228 2255. The other side of the headlines and all that other gubbins. We'll be talking to Bernard in Burnage. We like a bit of alliteration from time to time. And also, I'd be interested in your comments on the decision this morning. It looks like, although, of course, they may well choose to go further, but it looks like the banks have lost the case in that they will no longer be able to charge punitive amounts for people who go overdrawn unofficially. In other words, they don't organise an overdraft and go overdrawn at the bank. The outcome of that will be one of two things, or possibly a mixture of both. The mixture will be those of us who don't go illegally overdrawn at the bank will have to pay more because the banks still want their money. So we'll all have to pay more because of those stupid cretins who can't add up, or, putting it in its worst lice, those thieves who spend money they've not got. Alternatively, the bank will say, fine, a cheque's just been presented for £35, you've got no money, get stuffed. And they'll bounce your cheque. Or you'll put your little ticket in the hole in the wall and it won't let you have any money because, frankly, you haven't got any. And they're not going to volunteer to be stolen from by people who can't do sums.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline news.
The one-day teacher strike is disrupting classes at around half of Greater Manchester's schools. Union members are holding a rally in Manchester's Albert Square. Some of Britain's biggest banks have lost a test case about their overdraft charges. The High Court's ruled that the Office of Fair Trading can challenge penalty charges imposed on customers. And Portuguese police hunting for Madeleine McCann have been criticised by one of her parents' friends. Rachel Oldfield was with Kate and Jerry McCann on the night Madeleine went missing. Manchester's weather, sunshine and showers, but brighter in the afternoon. Highs of 14 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester. 2020 traffic.
Well, thankfully, traffic's moving much better now on the M6 southbound. There was a broken down lorry between 21A, the Croft interchange, and 21 at Wolston, but thankfully it has now been recovered and all lanes been reopened to traffic again, so it's moving at a much better pace now. Taking a quick look to cameras in the Rusholme area of Manchester. Upper Brook Street on the A34 still down to one lane on the outbound stretch of carriageway around Grafton Street whilst telecoms works takes place, but traffic seems to be coping fairly well for the minute. And if you're heading through Bury on the A56 towards the Rock, then you won't be able to progress much further than Butcher Lane. It's closed through Butcher Lane to Clark Street, but there is a diversion set up via Rochdale Road and Derby Way instead. And in Ashton and Makerfield on Bolton Road on the A58, more restrictions between Golborne Road and Warrington Road. Again, roadworks underway at the moment from Ashton towards Abram. Now, don't forget, of course, if you happen to spot a problem out on the roads and I'm failing to mention, give us a quick call. Let us know about it if you can. Hands-free on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Makes it sound like we're a Vic inhaler, doesn't it? Decongesting traffic, you know. Oh, God. Bernard in Burnage. Hiya.
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
Alan, did you read in the paper the other day where a traffic warden was run over by a chap she was booking?
I did.
Well, she was booking this guy, so he moved forward and run over her foot.
I remember.
So when she jumped up, he backed and run over it again. So that was very nice. Don't you think it was a pity that it wasn't her head that he ran over?
No, I don't really advocate violence.
Don't you?
No.
Because the first thing you've got to be, you know, before you become a traffic warden, have no parents. What do you think about that?
I think you're a cretin. 0161 228 2255. You got something to say? Unless, of course, you're a complete buffoon like Bernard. Feel free. I mean, I wouldn't mind if it were funny. Funny, I can cope with vile and despicable points of view if they're funny. But just 'cause you're a cretin, it's not a good enough excuse. Ken in Bury, how are you doing?
Ain't not too bad, Alan. Yourself?
I'm
obviously
all right.
doing great.
Well, that's all I do.
Right, before we get on to the nitty-gritty of it, you like shooting squirrels.
I don't like it.
Well, anyway, it's just a matter
I see it as my duty.
Good for you. Yeah, no problem with that. What are you using, a 177 or a 22?
I think I'm using a 22, but I'm not an armaments expert. I'm using the gun I'm allowed to hold legally without a licence that the bloke in the gun shop told me was perfect for the job.
Right, well, just a rule of thumb, 177 for feather and 22 for fur. Now I'll let your imagination go with that one.
Well, please do. I wouldn't have need of the 177 because I don't shoot feather.
Well, if you do, it's got to be a 177 because, believe it or not, feathers can actually deflect a 2-2 pellet.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because...
Oh, you know that?
I'm aware, yes.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
But I don't know which I've got. Well, I do now because you've just told me, but, yeah,
What have I phoned you up for? Right.
Yeah, I was getting...
Yeah, we was getting that far, right.
Yeah.
Right, well, I know I can't mention the company I get my telephone off.
Or indeed hint at who it might be.
Well, I wouldn't hint at that. I've learnt over the years listening to you,
You're
Alan.
very gracious, thank you.
Well, I won't say that. I'm just getting clever. Right,
Okay,
well,
what's your problem?
I've changed over from a low user scheme to to this where you get, and it says here, new charges for unlimited evening and weekend calls plans, £35.98. Do you think that's unlimited free charges? They're charging me £35.98.
I'm not sure I fully understand your question, but you seem to be saying that the deal is, according to what you've got in front of you, you pay a monthly sum, and when you pay that monthly sum, you are then entitled to use your phone. Is that your dog?
Yeah.
You're entitled to use your phone in the evening and at weekends without any call charges.
Correct. So
Right.
they charge me £35.98.
Yes.
Right, then the next one is payment processing fee. This section shows that the charges levied by you-know-who for processing your payment by the method other than a monthly payment plan or direct debit,
Yeah.
they're charging me £4.50.
Yep.
Now, how can this company charge you that amount of money and they don't recognise the way you pay it?
Well, they do recognise it. They recognise it, and they recognise that it costs them more money to process your bill if you are somebody who doesn't use a direct debit process, and they make you pay for that.
You think that's fair?
Fair's a strange thing. Well, fair is always one of those words that doesn't really have much meaning. I mean, my producer's called Richard Fair, and what use is he? So fair's one of those words, isn't it? It might be quiet in a minute. Fair's one of those words. I mean, the alternative is that the company passes the charges that they incur dealing with you onto everybody, or they make you pay what it costs them. Now, those are the chances. Those are the alternatives. So either they don't charge you for using the process of payment that you choose to use, but because it's more expensive than the others, they have to put tuppence on my bill and tuppence on my neighbour's bill and his neighbour in order to get this £4.50. Or they say to you, the process you're using costs £4.50, so you pay it. Now, none of those are fair if you're the one that's losing out.
Oh, it's not a matter of principle, this, Alan. No,
I
don't believe. No, it's a matter of money.
Well, it is a matter of money, but it's a matter of the principle.
I just thought I'd get that in, actually.
It's a matter of money, but it's also a matter of the principle they're using to decide how much a person pays. Should we distribute the costs of your and my phone equally to everybody, or should we make the charges represent the different costs involved? Now, that company you're dealing with has decided that they will make the charges, the different charges, appropriate when billing.
Well, that sounds great on their side, but as far as I'm concerned, they can do what they want, where what they call it, where monkeys put nuts.
Well, they can indeed do that, and in the end, that is what they will do. If everybody like you says, go to hell, we are going to move our custom elsewhere because of the process you choose, then they may reconsider.
Well, sorry, Alan, sorry to interrupt you. Carry on, Paul. Carry on, mate.
Well, just that's it. If you decide to take your custom elsewhere, they may reconsider. But in these days of competition, the phone companies want to offer the cheapest possible because they're all using the same lines, so there's not much else to compete about. So they want to offer the cheapest deal. Now, when they come to me, they say to me, Alan, you pay by direct debit, so we will give you cheaper. because you pay by direct debit. They come to you and they say, Ken, you don't pay by direct debit. We're going to charge you for it. If you take your business elsewhere, I think you'll find when you get to where you're going, eventually that company too will do the same thing.
Yep. I told them, actually, this company, that I'm getting in touch. Is it Ofcom?
Well, that'll make no difference.
Well, I did anyway. I did. I'm listening to what you've been saying over the weeks, and I got in touch with them, and they said, yeah, we're looking into this.
Well, we'll let them.
Then I said to them that I'm getting my MP on a job. How can you charge me for not paying? By the way, I pay cash. I go to post office, I pay cash.
Cash is very expensive. Cash is very expensive.
It is expensive.
Well, it's expensive in that the company, to get their money, that cash has got to be converted into a paper number in order for them to get their money. They don't, on your name, on your account, they don't have a big bucket where they throw the money. It's paper. So in the end, that cash has got to be converted into paper. And somebody does that. Now, the somebody who does that wants a wage. Wants quite a big wage, because there's thousands of them. Whereas with me, as far as the telephone company are concerned, they don't have to pay someone to convert that cash into a number, because they get a number off my bank account. And so it's transferred as a number. There's nothing involved. It's just press a button, it's done, instead of somebody having to collect it, take it to the bank. Now, when you're paying it over, the person you pay it to has got to count it. Then a security firm has got to come and put it in a big van and drive it to somewhere else. And when it gets to somewhere else, that somewhere else has got to count it. And then they've got to convert it into a number. And then the number is transferred. Now, in my case, the number's transferred. There isn't all that counting and all that driving. So it's cheaper. And
anyway, I understand what you're saying. I don't agree with it.
You don't have to agree with it.
I know that. So I said to him that I've been in touch with Ofcom. I'm getting in touch with my MP. And then I threw the ace of spades down. I said, I'm getting in touch with Allan Beswick. And they said, no, you're not. I said, yeah, I'm getting in touch with Allan Beswick. We'll get it sorted out with Allan Beswick. And, that really frightened them.
I'm glad to hear it. Glad to have been of service, if only in name. 0161 228 2255. Alan in Manchester. Hiya.
Hiya. Afternoon, Alan. You okay?
Good afternoon. I am, yeah.
Good. Right, it's a funny one. You're going to call me a wally when I've told you what's happened.
It's not a word I use a lot, but go on.
Or in Egypt then, or something on that line. What it was, yesterday morning at work, I work for a hire shop, and we're quite busy. I was dealing with a customer, and one of my colleagues took a phone call and said it was from a loan company. I don't know if I can name the company or not.
No, I'd prefer you didn't.
Okay. They said it was this certain company, and someone had applied for a loan in my name. Is Alan, my surname there? Nearly did it again. So I got on the telephone, and I was busy with my customers, and he said, you've taken a loan out in your name. Can you confirm your name and address? I said, well, can you confirm the name and address to me? And he said, well, I can't data protection. And I said, well, I can't. And then eventually went on for a couple of minutes where I was getting pretty agitated because I didn't know what was going to happen, because I thought, they're taking a loan out my name, I want to get to the bottom of it. So I gave him my address. And he said, well, it's not that address, but it might have a similar one. Can you give me date of birth? And me not thinking I gave him my date of birth as well. That's where the wally bit comes in. But I was just concerned if anybody else had any of these calls and anything that ever happened in the same kind of vein. And will anything happen now I've given me my date of birth and my address?
Well, probably it won't. It won't. But I wouldn't have done that. I would have said no. And I then would have said, now this depends, so let us assume it's the Allan Beswick credit company that rung you up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would know whether I've sought a loan with the Allan Beswick credit company. And I would just say to that firm when they ring, no, I have no dealings with you, but if you would like to write to the person and the address that you have, if it arrives at my door, I'll reply. If it doesn't, I won't. But I have had no dealings and have sought no loan with you.
I think it was just because I was so wound up with work in the middle of the day. I just wondered if any of the listeners had happened to them. I mean, yesterday when I got in from work, I telephoned the police and I spoke to the police, and they said, They said basically that there's nothing they can do. They can't really log the call, which is fair enough because nothing's happened.
No.
But if anything does happen, to give them a ring.
Well, quite, yes, and that would be the way forward.
But I mean, we tried to do 147 on the number, and I looked on the internet and I found the company. One was in British Columbia and one was in the Republic of Ireland. And it was an Irish fellow that rang me up.
Yeah.
But he didn't leave any name and number. But it was quite frightening when they actually rang.
Well,
it
may well be. It may well be, from their perspective, a perfectly legitimate inquiry. Somebody may well have applied for a loan who has the same name as you and a similar address. It
was one of them. Sorry, Alan. It was one of those companies which lend you money until you've been paid.
Yes.
You know, like so halfway through the month you can apply for a loan, and it was one of them. Because I looked into it after, because it really did frighten me.
Well, you're right to be wary. I think frightened is overstating it, but you're right to be wary. And for one, I too would be wary.
Can I just make a point on the teachers while I'm on?
Please do.
My mum was a teacher, and head teacher. She worked there she worked for 35 years as a teacher. And she still goes back now. She's retired. She's mad for it. She loves her job. Not because of what a lot of people associate teaching with, the 6-week holidays and all the rest of it, and the flexi time and all this kind of stuff, which is a load of rubbish, because my mother, as long as I'd known her, she was a teacher, and she was doing work at home at 8, 9 o'clock at night, marking books at the weekends, going on courses, and really, really investing time in her job and the children. And I think, not to, paint too rosy a picture of it, but a lot of people have this attitude that a teacher's life is easy, and as you look at the discipline of some of the pupils and children nowadays, it's not an easy job at all to try to get people to a standard when there might be 15 to 20 kids in the class that don't want to get to a standard. Certainly in some of the more deprived areas and deprived schools, it is a big challenge, and I think people should respect what they do.
I think many people do respect what they do. However, the bit that they perhaps aren't as supportive over is whether they should receive the amount of money that they're asking for.
Well, I think if you look at when a teacher starts, and you look at when teachers leave the profession, they invest 4 years of the time. I know it's university and they have grants and different things like that, but they invest a lot of time in doing a job which is highly skilled. I know we had the guy on before from Lee or wherever who was saying that the spelling mistakes. But when you've got 400 tests to mark in the space of an hour, spelling mistakes can occur. But I think I
don't know how much pressure I would have to be under to spell wonderful with a U.
I know it's one of those, but I mean, I think.
I mean, just mathematically, it takes longer because it's an extra letter.
But I think people don't realise that. The pressure that they are under and the situations which they are put in, i.e. they've got to hit the certain targets now, the SATs and all this kind of stuff, and the money they get, I do think they're justified. Same as when the debate was on with the policemen, that they do the job, the dedicated job, people don't appreciate them.
But then you end up with a question, don't you? Because when does the amount of money not be justified? So teachers are averaging, I think teachers are averaging 23,000, and there are some on a lot more than that, but let's just go with the 23,000. Okay, let's say you're a middle-of-the-road teacher, you earn 23,000. Well, they're worth that, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. 24? Probably.
Yeah.
25? So how about 96?
Well, if you look at it on a scale, I mean, everything's got to be to a scale.
Well, yes, it does, and that's the question. You see, the issue is that the teachers want more than they've been offered. Now, they've done pretty well for the past 7 years, by all accounts. They've got more than inflation every time. They're now better off per pound, if you like, than they were 7 years ago. And they've got used to getting their slice of the fat. And now it's a lean year. They're saying, hang on, we're accustomed to fat. We want more than the rate of inflation. And the government's saying, no, this is the year when you won't do as well as you'd hoped.
I think what you need to do is, in my profession, what I do, we set out and we set certain targets. And if you achieve those targets, you get it's like the old-fashioned system, isn't it? The payment for reward and all that kind of thing.
Well, if we went on that, Alan, and I know there are lots of very, very good explanations why, and you've touched on some of them today, but if we went on that basis, none of them would get paid, because kids are leaving school that can't read or write, and come to think of it, we've got teachers that can't spell wonderful. Wouldn't pay any of them if we were doing that.
Well, I think if you had a scale like that, I mean, if you look at some of the successful schools, I mean, I'm fortunate that my children go to 2 very good schools, not anything like private schools, anything like that, but good state schools, which one's come 12th, and I think the other one's come about 100th or something like that out of the whole country. And we're fortunate that they've got a good set of teachers. But I remember back to when I was a kid, and the first lot of strikes was on. Back in the 80s, and the standard of teaching from then to now, I think, has increased dramatically because.
So what's happened? Have the kids got thicker? Because when I left school, the standard then was that people could read and write. The standard now is that they can't. Have the kids got thicker, or has the teaching standard got so bloody good that they can't teach them how to read, write, and count? Which is it?
I think that the problem is nowadays with the children is that when I was at school, there was the big stick. And if you did something wrong, it didn't get questioned. And if the teacher shouted at me or the teacher gave me the slipper and I went home, I'd get the slipper myself.
So the only way teaching really works is if they have the power to beat education into people.
Not beat education into them, but...
With a slipper.
But the respect factor that the children who were borderline, who thought...
Well, who do we blame for that? Because I seem to remember an organisation called STOP, which was a very, very vociferous and vocal organisation, and I think it was the Society of Teachers Opposed to Punishment. I think that was its proper name.
I'm not too sure about that.
So the loudest cry to not beat children was actually the teachers. Anyway, we've got to go. Good on you, mate.
Not a problem.
Cheers. Have a good day. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline News.
9 men and 2 women have been arrested after reports of racist chanting during St George's Day celebrations in Manchester city centre. Some of Britain's biggest banks have lost a test case about their overdraft charges. The High Court's ruled the Office of Fair Trading can challenge penalty charges imposed on some customers. And 19 people have been charged after a major police operation targeting drug dealing in Wilmslow and Macclesfield. Manchester's weather, sunshine and showers, but should be brighter later on in the afternoon. Highs of 14 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Taking a quick peek now to Deansgate on the A56 Liverpool Road. We've still got that closure in force at that junction opposite the Beetham Tower with a diversion sign locally whilst water maintenance work continues. In the Poynton area of Cheshire London Road between First Avenue and Adlington Park, looking slightly delayed through the roadworks area at the moment. So we do have some temporary traffic lights in operation. So it's down to 1 lane either side of the carriageway for work on Hope Green Railway Bridge. Thankfully, no reported delays on public transport for the moment. Everything running to schedule, but if you know different, do call in. Make sure it's hands-free before you dial, and the number's 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, they might still be ruining this.
Here comes Cristiano Ronaldo. He strikes the ball on. He's put it wide. He hit the stanchion and it's bounced away.
Well, now Manchester United have even more problems. Nemanja Vidic is in serious doubt for Saturday's Premier League title showdown with Chelsea. The Serb missed last night's Champions League goalless draw at the Nou Camp after spending Tuesday night in a Barcelona hospital with a stomach infection. But the Reds boss, Sir Alex Ferguson, thinks Saturday just isn't realistic.
Before we went training, they had very severe stomach pains, and we had to send him to the hospital. The local hospital just was only about a mile away from our hotel, so we felt that was the best place for him to go. They kept him in to wait till the night and then allowed him home. They've done all the tests and they think it's an infection in the stomach. I don't think he'll be ready for Saturday, but we'll certainly give him every chance.
Well, meanwhile, newspaper reports from Portugal are linking United's assistant manager Carlos Queiroz with the Benfica job. Sir Alex Ferguson's number 2, of course, left Old Trafford to take charge at Real Madrid 4 seasons ago, and it's believed talks are ongoing for a move back to his homeland. Liverpool defender John Arne Riise believes he'll come back stronger after scoring a shock injury time own goal in their semi with Chelsea on Tuesday. Risa says, I've got my head back in place after a heavy night. I'm going to learn from this. Well, Bolton still have Tottenham, Sunderland and Chelsea to play this season in the Premier League relegation run-in. However, Wanderers boss Gary Megson has tipped Birmingham to avoid the drop and denies it's a psychological ploy.
I think when you look at the games that Fulham, Birmingham, ourselves and Reading have got, I think that you would probably look and say that Birmingham are the favourites in this in this relegation battle to stay up because of the fact they've got 2 home games.
Well, former Burnley boss Stan Ternent has left his role as assistant at Derby County and joined League One side Huddersfield as their new manager. Ternent only joined the Rams as Paul Jewell's assistant 5 months ago, but will now take over at the Gal Farm Stadium. Lancashire should be underway at Old Trafford for day 2 of their county championship match with Somerset. Give us some good news, Chris Malaban.
I can oblige. Indeed they are, yes. Lancashire 66 though for 1 after 24 overs. Somerset have struck early here this afternoon. We started play at 12:30 and fast bowler Mark Turner took no time at all to get into his rhythm and he trapped Ian Sutcliffe LBW for his overnight score of 28. So Sutcliffe gone, the first man in the Lancashire innings to go back into the hutch. That brought Malloy to the wicket. He has joined Paul Horton, who's on 33. So after 24 overs here, Lanc 66 for 1.
Just a quick word on the groundsman there, Chris. Pete Maron is going to have his work cut out if these clouds keep coming over town, aren't they?
He is indeed. He's going to have a busy summer, Will. I mean, Pete's experienced, though. He's used to the Manchester weather over many years here. And just a quick look on the internet is showing me a dark cloud with 2 droplets and a half a sun for this afternoon. So I think we're probably going to be in and out a little bit. But Peter and his team are well groomed here with getting the covers on and off. And, of course, they do possess the wonderful hover cover, which occasionally roars into life and comes out to cover the playing strips. I'm sure Pete and the team are well ready for the Manchester summer.
I think we should get you a job as a weather reporter here, Chris. Well, in rugby union, Sale Sharks fullback Ben Foden isn't letting recent speculation bother him ahead of the weekend's European Challenge Cup semi-final with Bath. Foden's signed a contract with Northampton Saints for next season, and he's being urged by all to stay at Edgeley Park after his fantastic recent form, which he looks to continue.
I've got such fantastic players inside and outside me. Hopefully I can still run in a few tries when it's there to be done. But for me, it's just about making no mistakes, really. I've made a few mistakes in the last couple of games at Bristol and Wasps. I'm just trying to cut those errors out, and hopefully I can just do what comes natural to me, which is running with the ball.
Well, in Rugby League Australian standoff, Trent Barrett is considering asking Wigan to release him from his contract due to family reasons. That's according to his agent. The former Test player is less than halfway through a 3-year deal at the JJB. Castleford have completed the signing of Brendan Cladd from Penrith Panthers and also have agreed a deal to bring in former Wakefield prop Ned Katic from Leon. Meanwhile, Dwayne Chambers will finish his month's trial with the Tigers in a friendly against York at the Jungle on Sunday. Join Jack Dearden and Trevor Hunt for the Rugby League Hour tonight, live from the Willows. We'll have full match commentary on Salford's National League One game against Whitehaven, plus hear from Saints' new coach Mick Potter, along with Paul Sculthorpe and Chief Executive Tony Colquitt. Andy Murray is optimistic he can upset world number 3 Novak Djokovic when the pair meet in the 3rd round of the Monte Carlo Masters this afternoon. Djokovic, who won the first Grand Slam in Australia this year, has won all 3 previous matches against the British number 1. And finally, at the World Snooker Championship in Sheffield this afternoon, the favourite and 2-time winner Ronnie O'Sullivan will resume 5-4 up against the Chinese qualifier Louis Xuan. The former champion Peter Ebden begins his 2nd round match against Mark King.
Now that Wimbledon clearly looms tediously on the horizon, we're going to have to come up with a name for that bonk, aren't we? Because we used to have Henman Hill, where all the people who support losers used to cheer. Are we now going to have Murray Mound? So the losers, the fans of losers, will have somewhere to be made fools of.
We're stretching Becky.
But it wouldn't be your ideal home for you and I to live in. However, there might be something that... Well,
How do you know?
Well, I don't know. I
Big bedroom.
I have to say, well, I've heard the show so far. You're coming over to me as a bit of a raunchy, risky kind of character, I have to say, Becky.
More Manchester, more Becky.
OK, Terry, what about clackers?
I think it was called Knockers, right? We call it...
Are you making it up, Terry?
No, I'm not. Honest to God, anyone from Mouthpatching, New and Heath all around there, it was called Knockers.
More Becky than ever.
You were how old? Oh, gosh, that would be giving too much away. A lady never admits her age. Oh, good for you. Obviously, you're older than you look then, if you're saying that. Yeah.
Becky Wants.
It's like Friday afternoon, every afternoon with me.
This afternoon from 2.
At BBC Radio Manchester.
So there you are, the Murray Mound. Remember, you heard it first on BBC Radio Manchester. The Murray Mound. Henman Hill. Murray Mound. About Loser's Lump. And then it'd do for time immemorial, wouldn't it? It's 10 to 1 on BBC Radio Manchester. Good day to you. Listen to this. Portuguese police hunting for Madeleine McCann have been criticised by one of her parents' friends. Rachel Oldfield has been talking to the BBC, and Rachel Oldfield was with Kate and Jerry McCann on the night that Madeleine went missing. I wish to cast no aspersions, but I do hope the interviewer asked her who was looking after her kids that night, assuming she has some. I've no information. She may well have engaged a nanny. I've no idea. But it is a question I would put to her if I was talking to Rachel Oldfield, who's slagging off the Portuguese police, and is now one of what, or is one of what is described as the tapas 7, then I would say, well, very jolly good of you to support your friend Rachel. And whilst you were tapasing with the Madeleine family, who'd left their kids to the devil, for the time being, who was looking after yours? That's what I'd ask. And if she said, well, we haven't played a nanny, I'd say, well done. And if she said, well, they were as safe as Madeleine, I'd say, well, you were lucky then, weren't you? John in Goulburn, hi.
Hi, hello, Alan, you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good, you're sounding healthy.
Yeah.
Well, it is. My son is 16 years of age, and he's due for leaving school this year. And he's just been informed by the school that he's not allowed to go on the school leaving party because of his poor attendance, which is down to his ill health. He's asthmatic, not chronic anymore. He's all down to basically his ill health. And I think that's discriminatory against him, saying that he can't go on it solely due to your attendance. I was wondering if there's any stance that you could give me to go to school with.
Blimey. Can't attend.
We've paid a deposit for the do, and he's gone into school this week with the rest of the fee for going on the do, which is agreed everybody else is paying in this week. And the teachers turned around and told him that because of your attendance, you're not allowed to go. I mean, we've hired a suit out for him, and I'm not bothered about the money. I mean, he's pretty upset that he can't go. He wanted to go with his girlfriend, who's also upset about it, but it's purely down to his health. If he's been bad behaviour, if he'd turn around and give a teacher a lip or a smack or something, then fine, I would stand behind the school on this. But because of his attendance, which basically is down to his health, it's discriminating against his health.
It does seem remarkable. I mean, the leaving do, is that what do the Americans call it? Yeah, they have a name for it. The prom, that's it. Is that what this is?
Yeah, it's like a prom do, yes.
Yeah, and it's actually on the school premises?
No, it's away from the school. It's over at, well, I won't say
well, no, it doesn't matter, no. So it's taking place outside of school time, outside of school premises?
Yeah.
And he's paid a deposit?
He's paid the deposit, yeah. He was due to pay the remainder of the...
When he proffered the deposit, how long ago was that?
Maybe a couple of months ago now.
A couple of months?
Yeah,
it's okay. Has his attendance record altered in that 2 months?
Not really, no. He has a bit of an erratic one. I mean, he like I say, he's asthmatic. He's had a few health problems.
Well, here's the question again. Has his attendance record altered in that last 2 months?
No, it's not altered.
It's not. So when they accepted the deposit, they accepted it in the knowledge that his attendance record was as it was, on the basis of a percentage at least.
That was my perception of it as well.
Now, it might be that they have a rule that says if you miss this many days, for whatever reason, you cannot attend. And if he's reached that number of days between the date of paying the deposit and the date of paying the balance, then I suppose they're at liberty to make that decision. But my guess is, if you kicked up enough crap, they'd let him go.
Well, that's what I'm aiming to do. I'm waiting to get a point with the headmaster, but I just want to go stood not so much on a legal stance, but, well, maybe a legal stance, but a moral one as well. I mean, it's purely down to a health reason. It's not at all his off.
Well, it doesn't mean it is discriminatory, but then all decisions about, the fact that if you don't attend that school at all, you can't go, is discriminatory. That's what discrimination is, a selection process. So it is discriminatory. Whether it is legal, I'm not sure. I would argue that accepting the deposit, they have accepted in principle his right to attend, and they've entered into a contract with him to provide the service that he seeks, and he's purchased the right to attend by paying his deposit. So that's what I would argue.
Yeah.
Whether lawyers would support me in that, God alone knows. But I think if you rattle enough cages, they're going to let him go. But what a bunch of cretins.
Yeah, I'd be quite prepared to take legal action, and consult.
Well, do that. Well, do that then. Do that.
With it, 'cause I think it's bang out of order, really.
Go to your solicitor. Get your solicitor to write them a letter and say, if you do not allow him to attend, we'll sue you for damages.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. Bad behaviour, I can understand. If he was an unruly pupil, I can understand that. But it's apparently based on either your work performance.
What does your son think of it all? He's livid.
He's absolutely, yeah.
What do his friends think?
His friends think it's totally ridiculous and stupid.
Well, why not why not teach him in the ways of the world and say, look, talk your friends into not going. Get them all to say, we're not going. It's not going to happen. You can stick your leave and do up your bum. We'll have our own.
I mean, I'd even pay for a private leave and do of my own.
Well, there you are then. Put an alternative one on and get his friends to go to that.
Well, it just seems a bit of a cop-out for the school, It seems they're getting away with it.
Well, I don't suppose they're spending any money on it.
Well, no, I said the parents are funding it.
Exactly. So I think it stinks, but what do you expect, I think it stinks. But certainly, I would certainly... when's it due to take place?
It's in May.
It's in May. I'd write a letter today and say I resent the decision, and if it's not overturned forthwith, I'll be taking legal advice, and then go and see a lawyer.
Yeah, I've already phoned the school and told them that the headmaster is supposed to be ringing me back.
I'd do it in writing. I can't be doing it. By all means, if you get a reply from him, discuss it with him, and if you don't like what he says, say, fine, I'll be taking legal advice, and I look forward to my solicitor writing you in the immediate future.
Right, I shall do that.
Just for the hell of it, because he's...
He's got the letter sent off.
Excellent. Good on you, John. How an extraordinary thing for a school to decide. Have a good day.
Thank you. Same to you, Alan. Bye.
0161 228 2255. Paul in Blackpool, hiya.
Hello, Alan. Alan, I have a small leaflet distribution company. I've been in business nearly 40 years. And I did some work for a national company last year that advises on gas and electricity prices. I sent them a bill, and the total came to around about £2,000. I've never received any money from them, and I've had my solicitor send them a letter, and then we've also had somebody go in and present them with a letter, notice that if they didn't respond to it by April the 15th, then action would be taken. Now, they haven't responded. I've since been told that I can't close the company down, but it would cost me at least £500 to do that. What I'm wanting to know, and I suspect that it won't do me any good, is would it be worth doing?
I don't know what you mean by the phrase, I can close the company down.
Well, I've been informed that if I pay a certain amount of money, I could have the company closed down.
I don't know who's informed you of that.
Well, I have... Well, to be honest with you, my daughter's a solicitor.
And she says you can close the company?
And that's what she said I could do.
Well, she's probably wrong. However, what you could do is you could bring an action against them, and if you work in conjunction with someone else who owes them money, you might be able to make them bankrupt.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
Right.
Make them bankrupt, sorry.
Well, you can only make them bankrupt, first of all. You're going to have to prove your debt at court, and you could seek bankruptcy, but frankly, for £2,000, depends on the size of the company, but for £2,000, your chances are they're not nil, but they're
slim. Well, from what I can gather, they've got 2 women and a man, and it's an office.
That's not what's relevant. If they're a £500,000 company and you're a £2,000 debt, try to get them made bankrupt, you probably won't have a chance.
No.
I think you just need really to pursue the matter on the basis of take them to court and sue them for the £2,000.
Yeah.
And that's a matter for the small claims procedure.
The difficulty is with all this, I've got another company, they only owed me £90. Up to now, in solicitor's fees and court fees, it's now cost me another £275.
Well, quite, yes, but that's why we have the small claims procedure, so that you don't have to use solicitors, but frankly, people who won't pay are not worth suing, to be honest.
Are you a budding poet? Can you write a faith-inspired poem? Find out more with me, Mike Schaff, this Sunday from 7.
If I had a legal problem and my daughter was a solicitor, I sure as hell wouldn't be incurring any legal bills. I might have to slap her about the head a bit, but that's just my way of thinking.
95.1 FM.
DAB Digital Radio.
And the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, the banks lose their case over overdraft charges and 5 teenagers are arrested on suspicion of rape in Oldham.
Lancashire lose an early wicket as the sun finally shines at Old Trafford.
Well, this afternoon we've got showers and sunny spells, but it will become gradually drier and brighter. Top temperatures 15 Celsius.
And if you're heading along the M6 at the moment, traffic's slightly built up around junction 22 at Newton Willows on the northbound carriageway.
Good afternoon, I'm Faye Rusco. Some of Britain's biggest banks have lost a test case about their overdraft charges. The High Court's ruled that the Office of Fair Trading can challenge penalty charges imposed on customers. Doug Taylor, the personal finance campaigner for Which magazine, said the ruling was very significant.
What it means is that the OFT will be able to establish fair terms on these charges, and we will believe those charges would therefore drop. So we welcome very much the decision in the High Court today, and we hope that the banks will act quickly to reimburse consumers.
5 teenagers have been arrested on suspicion of rape in Oldham. Police received reports that 2 12-year-old girls had been raped at a house in Chadderton yesterday. Officers arrested 2 18-year-old men, 2 17-year-olds and a 16-year-old boy. They're all in custody for questioning. The arrests are part of Operation Messenger, which was set up to combat the issue of child exploitation in the borough. Teachers across Greater Manchester have defended their decision to go on strike. Around half of our local schools have been hit by the walkout, the first in 21 years. Around 700 people are marching through Manchester this lunchtime in support of teachers. The actions caused problems for many parents, but Tony Harris from the National Union of Teachers in Oldham says the pay offer of 2.5% has given them no choice.
People don't want to come out on strike easily. I mean, the people enter this job for is to teach children. They want to teach children, and they respect the children and they respect the parents, and we don't want to put them into any inconvenience. But unfortunately, for the last 3 years, we've had what it amounts to a decrease in pay.
The former US Marine who abducted a teenager from Wigan after grooming her on the internet has now been jailed for 11 years in the United States. Toby Studebaker sparked an international manhunt after abducting the girl and flying to France with her in July 2003. After serving the prison term in Britain, he was deported in June 2007 and charged with offences relating to the abduction under US law. 9 men and 2 women have been arrested after reports of racist chanting during St George's Day celebrations in Manchester city centre. Around 30 to 40 drinkers were involved at the incident at the Moon Underwater pub and the Mitre Hotel yesterday afternoon. Police say the vast majority of St George's Day revellers celebrated peacefully and insist the force won't tolerate racism of any kind. The government's urging motorists not to panic buy petrol in the face of a looming strike at one of Britain's biggest oil refineries. 1,200 workers at the Grangemouth terminal in central Scotland are due to walk out for 48 hours from Sunday in a dispute over their pensions. The business secretary, John Hutton, told the Commons the stoppage was regrettable, but he said there was enough petrol available.
I have been advised by the industry that there is sufficient fuel to resupply forecourts and other users ahead of the planned industrial action. Industry has also advised us, Mr Speaker, that at present fuel stocks at Grangemouth, together with planned imports of finished product through Grangemouth to replace lost production, should be sufficient.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Joanne Smith.
Well, after an hour's delay, Lancashire's county championship match against Somerset is finally underway. The home side are into bat on day 2, but it's not been the best of starts. Here's Chris Malaband.
For Lancashire, Joe, because Malloy has just been trapped. LBW by Mark Turner for 4. So Lancs having resumed 60 without loss, and now 84 for 2. And Mark Turner, Somerset's northeastern-born pace bowler, has bowled a really good spell this morning from the Stretford end, making up for lost time. We didn't get started until 12:30, so we lost an hour and a half of play this morning. But since then, Somerset have taken advantage of helpful overhead conditions for swing bowling. Turner earlier snaffled Ian Sutcliffe LBW for 28 and has now picked up Malloy for 4. So latest score here at Old Trafford in the 29th over, Lancashire are 84 for 2.
Thank you, Chris. Manchester United defender Nemanja Vidic is a serious doubt for Saturday's Premier League title showdown with Chelsea. The Serb missed last night's Champions League goalless draw at the Nou Camp, spending Tuesday night in a Barcelona hospital with a stomach infection. Meanwhile, newspaper reports from Portugal are linking United's assistant manager Carlos Queiroz with a Benfica job. So Alex Ferguson's number 2, of course, left Old Trafford to take charge at Real Madrid 4 seasons ago. It's believed talks are ongoing for a move back to his homeland. And finally, St Helens have made their first signing for next season, with New Zealand utility forward Tony Pellecchia agreeing a 3-year deal.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, this afternoon we've got sunshine and showers, and some of those showers could be quite heavy for a time. It will generally become drier and brighter though as we go through the afternoon, and top temperatures today will get to 15 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Bobby Nettles says that Paul, who was on earlier, you know, the chap with the leaflet distribution company and the £2,000 debt, may well have been referring to a winding up order. Indeed, he may well. And even that all comes under the Insolvencies Act. It's all part of the Insolvencies Act from the 1990? Nah, it's probably before then. 85, I'll say. 1985. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was then. But that's what he's referring to. But again, all that means is that a liquidator is appointed by the court, and they then effectively wind up the company. But of course, before you get there, you're going to have to prove your debt. You'd be a lot easier, a lot quicker, probably, to attempt to get your money. Because if they wind up the company, it still doesn't mean you'll get your money. Just like if you make them bankrupt, it doesn't mean that you'll get your money. It just means you'll go on a list of creditors, and the list may well be long. Jackie via email, was it the first? No, it was the second today. John in Wigan said that man about the buses, he had an excellent point about bus fumes. In the area I live, the buses are a serious pollutant, and I've seen many that spew out blue smoke, but like everything else these days, it's pointless complaining. I sometimes feel that the average person is powerless. The number of times I've informed police of various things and am met simply with apathy. 0161 228 2255. Steve in Knutsford. Hiya, Steve.
Hi, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Good. I've listened to your show for a long time, even when you did the consumer advice and what have you.
Yeah.
And often you get people coming on to speak to you with their tales of woe and you know, complaints and so on. And I've done that myself in the past, to be honest with you. I'm not always singing praises. But I wanted to ring up and sort of sing praises this time. We bought a washing machine just over 12 months ago. And just towards about in the 11th month of its warranty, it went horribly wrong. We called them out, and they came out. They tried to fix it, couldn't. They said, "We're very sorry, we'll come back in a week with a new part." So we just thought, okay, then, well... And they did what they said they were going to do. They came out when they said they would, and they did what they said they were going to do. So, all well and good, washing machine gets fixed. About a fortnight later, I get a phone call from this company saying, "We're very sorry that you experienced a faulty product. And to recompense you, we'd like to offer you a free appliance up to the value of £400. Just go to the shop, find out the number of the appliance you want, give us a ring, and we'll deliver it." And on Tuesday this week, we got delivery of a very nice new cooker from this company, which I thought was absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic is hardly the word to cover it. Facing bankruptcy quite soon, I suspect. Well done, then.
Well,
brilliant.
Just one of them things where I thought, you know, it's not very often you hear where companies go so far out of the way to make sure that the customer's happy.
It's wonderful. Excellent. Well, what I can tell you is that Misery doesn't, happiness doesn't make much news. So we deal in the misery more often than not. But thank you for that. That's warmed all our hearts.
I'm sure it did. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Good on you. There you are. So you get a washing machine. You have it for 11 months. It goes wonky. They mend it. They keep all their promises. They fulfil all their obligations, and then they say to you, "Look, we're sorry you've had a bad time. Go and get 400 quid's worth of stuff from our shop." Good God. 0161 228 2255. Neil in Bebington. I find it somewhat of a puzzlement that while the McCanns and friends were on holiday, they didn't have some type of watch system in place, a simple system of one adult with right of access watching over the children, done on a rota-like basis. After all, they seem like such caring people. Well, Neil, we don't know that didn't exist. We just know that the McCanns suffered, if indeed it is as everybody suspects, and the child was snatched away from the home. The McCanns suffered a terrible ordeal, should we say. So we don't know what was in place, but yes, as I say, when I heard that one of the Tapas 7 was being interviewed, I was rather hoping that question would be put. Well, what were you doing there? Were you looking after your children? Or indeed, were you there alone and your partner was looking after the children? Or is it that you don't actually have any children? All of those things are possible answers, and I do not know which is correct. 0161 228 2255 if you've something to say. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and of course you can text 07786 206 951. And the system that you referred to in your email is fairly commonly used, isn't it? People gather together, they go out and have a few drinks and a meal, and one of them, one poor schmuck you might say, has to stay home, stay in the hotel and keep checking all the different rooms. And that strikes me as being a reasonable compromise, and something that perhaps many do. Can't be sure, of course. Henry in Prestbury. I saw the police task force dealing with the St George's Day celebrations on leaving Manchester last evening. They looked like they were ready for war. I wonder how many of the arrested were waving banners calling for beheadings of other races whilst wearing face masks, as was the case regarding the Mohammed cartoons. If my memory serves me correctly, the police made no arrests that day, but weeks later, after a public outcry about it. One law for one race and another for another springs to mind. Indeed. Henry in Prestbury, thank you very much indeed. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, that's good. Brian in Stockport. Hiya, Brian.
Hiya there. Just a quickie, Alan. 0845 numbers, am I right? Are they a premium number?
Oh, God. I don't know. Someone will know. I don't know. I can never remember.
Because, you know, you get through to your local council now, it's an 0845 number.
Yeah.
You get through to your bank, it's an 0845 number or whatever. You know, and I'm never quite sure. And it never,
no, I'm not either. I can never remember.
And it never shows up on your bill.
No.
You're always left hanging on. You know, all our lines are busy at the moment, and then they play music.
Mm.
And I wonder, I think to myself, is this costing me £1 a minute, or...?
Yeah, I don't know is the answer. I think 0845 numbers, that the charging varies.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. 0845. Does anybody know the answer to that? I would love to hear it. 0845 numbers.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I bet half the public don't know what the hell's going on with it either.
You might be right.
Yeah.
You might indeed be right.
Yeah, just one other comment.
Go on.
The teacher that marked me spelling, 10 out of 10, wonderful.
Oh, yes.
Spell with a U.
Yes.
Was she checking the spelling with the U's, you know, like
well, yes, indeed. Was it indeed the case? It's hard for us to know, isn't it? Eh?
Anyway.
Good on you. And someone will tell us, so do feel free to stick around and find out. But can somebody tell me what the regulations are relating? I could get on to what used to be called ICSTIS and whose name I've now forgotten, but the 0845 numbers, they're readily available. There are all sorts of companies that offer them. But what I don't know is what are the charging rules. If I ring a number, as Brian just suggested, if I ring a number that commences with the numbers 0845, Am I going to be charged for it? Is there a fixed charge? Is there a maximum charge? Is there a varying charge? Is it a free call? I don't think it is round here. Those are 0800. So you tell me. I haven't the foggiest idea. They are all a complete blur to me. 0161 228 2255. Pam and Pete send us, please. Yesterday's bollard man. Please don't let him think he's made a pillock of himself just in Manchester. He's made a pillock of himself in southern Spain as well. We've not laughed so much in a long time. Oh, I see what you mean. I thought you knew he'd done it in Spain as well, but you're in Spain. Now it makes sense. You're in Spain, and you heard the story, and Spain are laughing at him as well. Well, that's all right. Love to hear it. Glad to have been of service. Give my regards to the sunshine. Keith tells me 0845 are local calls from anywhere in the country. That's what Keith says. So you will be charged the local calling rate, whether you're ringing Billericay, Blackburn, Blackpool, or even Boughton. And my husband is sick in bed, but you've brought a smile to his face. So there you are. We hope you get well, Tom. Yeah, he's probably got man flu. He'll be there for weeks. 0161 228 2255. You might like this. Ron in Lee says, and this is related to the caller talking about spelling. It was also in Lee. That was John, wasn't it? It was also in Lee. You might be interested in the following, taken from an author's website. A novel soon to be released by the cooperative project I belong to is filled with misspellings. It's also a great read by an extremely talented writer. The mistakes add to a sense of chaos, which is the theme of the work, representing the chaos of the contemporary age. That's Ron in Lee. I can see that making it into Sood's Corner in Private Eye. There was another book. Now, what was it? Was it Molesworth? Molesworth, a pupil, and I can't remember his first name. I never did enjoy it. I tried to read it. It was the story of a schoolboy, and it was written, if you would, in schoolboy language and also in schoolboy spelling. There was virtually no grammar. What was the name of it? Was it Molesworth? Wasn't Reginald Moleseed? That's somebody entirely different. Oh dear, a good many years ago. I can't remember how long ago. It must be 30 years ago. Anyway, I never read it. I tried to read it and found it utterly tedious and hard work because I had to keep looking up words to see what they really were. Very odd. But anyway, that was a big success. Was it Molesworth? Does anybody know? 0161 228 2255.
New Late Nights with Sam Walker.
I've had a great time. Not one, but two aunties staying. I've got my Auntie Lorraine from Spain and my Auntie Barbara, who I've tried to make move to Scarborough. Selfishly, she's moved to Devon. Oh. I've said that doesn't rhyme, that's no help to us whatsoever.
Sam Walker.
They've both come up to stay. So look, I've been treated by Auntie Lorraine. Jingly, look at that jewellery. The kid's got some fantastic walking thing where she can press buttons and pretend you fly in a plane. Hopefully this means she will train to be a pilot, and in a few years we can just live like kings in Rio, as she can earn loads of money.
New Late Nights with Sam Walker.
Can you just attempt to be mildly amusing?
Sam Walker.
Tonight from 10 at BBC Radio Manchester.
Keith, in his infinite wisdom, corrects me about the average pay of teachers. I said the average is about 23,000. Keith says the starting pay for teachers is over 20k and the average is 30. Well, you know, I'll have a defence lined up, Keith. What I was doing, apart from getting it wrong, what I was doing was changing the average pay to the pay of the average teacher, which is a different mathematical or arithmetical result. The problem with average pay is it's dragged up by those seriously well-paid head teachers who get over 100,000 a year. So that's dragged up. So what I was trying to get at, and I was still wrong, by the way, Keith, save your time with your email. I was still wrong. What I was trying to get at was the pay of the average teacher rather than the average pay for teachers. Different arithmetic, different result. But it's still higher than 23,000, which was what I said. Which, of course, makes the case for do they deserve more entirely different. 0161 228 2255. I don't know whether it makes it better or worse, just different. Re the bollards. You really have to include this story in your links to promote next week's programme. You're starting to write the trails for me now. Well, thank you very much. I'm very grateful to you for your endeavour. If you didn't hear the Bollards programme yesterday, the Bollards call yesterday, if indeed you're the victim of the Bollards call yesterday, Dave, good day to you. If you're the victim of the Bollards call yesterday, or indeed if you did hear it yesterday and you'd like to hear it again, I'm reliably informed that it will appear in Beswick, The Best Bits Again, between 6 and 7 on Saturday morning. I just inform you. If you didn't know, between 6 and 7 on a Saturday morning, whilst all of us who are sensible are fast asleep, but for the idiots who are up that early, unless they're having a good time and they've not gone to bed yet. Anyway, the 6 till 7 lot on Saturday morning, we have a few tunes, and then we just have bits of this programme from the course of a week. So the 5 days of Beswick sliced into an hour, but an hour with music. And then, seeing as how I've started on it, between 7 and 9 on a Saturday morning, we do this thing between 7 and 8. We've only just started doing it. And it's sort of looking at the week's news and picking a few of the big stories that have happened during the course of the week just gone and charting their course through the week. And it helps me get my head round what the story means, because you read the papers or you listen to the radio news or the television news or what have you, and you get all these bits of a story. But what we try to do on a Saturday morning between 7 and 8 is, with the big ones, is try to get hold of all those different pieces of the jigsaw puzzle and paint or put together the overall picture. And it's a way. We have a few tunes, we have a bit of a laugh as well, and I ramble me way through the hour. And then the second hour, I suppose it's the third if you count the best bits again, but the second live hour between 8 and 9, we get a couple of people in, have a cup of coffee and shoot the breeze. We're supposed to talk about the news, but we end up just basically shooting the breeze. That's Saturday morning. And then, of course, Mrs. Want. The Honourable Mrs. Want, out and about doing what she does best, which is spending money out of other people's purses.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline news.
The one-day teachers' strike is disrupting classes at around half of Greater Manchester's schools. Union members have been holding a rally in Manchester's Albert Square. Some of Britain's biggest banks have lost a test case about their overdraft charges. The High Court's ruled the Office of Fair Trading can challenge penalty charges imposed on customers. And Portuguese police hunting for Madeleine McCann have been criticised by one of her parents' friends. Rachel Oldfield was with Kate and Jerry McCann on the night Madeleine went missing. Manchester's weather, sunshine and showers, but brighter in the afternoon. Highs of 14 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, it seems there was an obstruction on the M60 anti-clockwise for a short time around junction 12 at the Eccles interchange. It was a pair of ladders in lane 1, but thankfully they have now been removed from the carriageway and traffic's moving freely again. Don't forget, of course, we still have major restrictions in the Hyde area. And you'll notice that Market Street's still closed between G Cross and the M67 slip road whilst gas maintenance work continues. But again, the diversion is signed locally for you to follow. In Stockport, Heaton Moor Road between Broomfield Road and Tatton Road South, looking slightly delayed at the moment because of some temporary traffic lights in operation whilst gas maintenance work continues. And in Radcliffe, Bridgefield Street's closed for roadworks between Church Street West and Collier Street, with the diversion taking you via Church Street West, Barlow Street to meet up with Collier Street further down the carriageway. Now, don't forget, of course, if you can update me on anything I've mentioned, why not get in touch? Make sure, of course, it's hands-free before you dial, and the number you need is 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Helping Manchester, help Manchester. BBC Radio Manchester Interaction with Linda Kay.
The countdown is on to one of Manchester's most exciting charity events, the 10K Midnight Walk for St Anne's Hospice. On Friday 23rd of May, up to 1,000 walkers will set out from the City of Manchester Stadium and take a midnight stroll around Manchester. And there's still time to join them.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. It's like a really, really good Friday night out.
Margaret took part in last year's Midnight Walk.
I mean, me and my mates couldn't stop laughing because we were dressed up in fancy dress and people were turning out cheering us. And the atmosphere, honestly, I just want everybody to come along and have a really, really good night out.
You don't have to be super fit to do the walk, and BBC Radio Manchester can send you a special exercise plan to boost your fitness and get you in shape.
There's slow walkers, there's fast walkers. You need very, very little training to do the walk. You can just stroll along.
If you'd like a registration form for the Manchester Midnight Walk and a free copy of our exercise programme, call Interaction 0161 244 4321.
Come on, you'll have the time of your life. It's something that you will not regret doing.
BBC Radio Manchester Interaction with CSV Broadcast. 0161 244 4321.
BBC Radio Manchester.
I wouldn't want to disappoint those of you that think I am the spokesperson for the British Curmudgeon Society. But is there anything more bloody tedious? Is there anything less funny than fancy dress? What you know about fancy dress is there's some cretin inside that suit. God, oh, we went for a walk. We couldn't stop laughing because we wore fancy dress. You laughed for about 4 seconds, you liar. And then it was boring, and you had to drag this ball and bleeding chain round with you all day. Fancy dress parties are bloody awful. They're boring. The people in them aren't funny. That's why they're wearing fancy dress, because they're not naturally funny. I'll tell you what, I'll paint a moustache on. Cretins.
Allan Beswick, BBC Radio Manchester.
Bill in Blakely. Hiya, Bill.
Hiya.
You're not in fancy dress, are you? You're going to be really disappointed.
No, I'm into all that,
That's
mate.
all right, mate. What have you got for us?
Well, my daughter's been insured with an insurance company, car insurance company, for a number of years. This time, she didn't like the quotes, so she got a cheaper quote and insured with the company, you know, the next company.
Another company, yeah.
Another company, yeah. And during that time, she'd moved house from Bury to Shuttleworth, where she lives now. So the next thing next thing happens is she gets a bill through the post from the original company, £350. They'd taken it out automatically off a credit card. So I was just wondering, can they do that?
Yeah.
Oh, they can?
Yeah.
Automatically?
Yeah. However, they would normally, I mean, that's what happens with mine. I'm hoping it's happened because it runs out in 3 days.
Yeah, but no, shouldn't.
Well,
I mean,
what would normally happen is they would send her a quote and they would say, this is what happens in my case, and I suspect it in many others. You get a quote from the company you've been with this year.
Yeah.
And they send you the quote. In my case, they even send me the new certificate of insurance, and it says you need take no further action because we will take the money out of your account. Now, mine's direct debit, but we'll take the money out of your account.
Yeah.
Now, if you do nothing, that is what they will do. What you need to do, or what she needs to do, or what she needed to do, was to get in touch with them and say, no, don't do that.
Well, the thing was, Alan, she'd moved addresses then, and she didn't receive...
Okay.
And when she said this to the insurance company, they said, well, she should have notified them that she'd changed addresses.
Indeed she should, particularly if the insurance was still in force at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, of course, the risk may change.
Yeah, yeah.
So you do have some obligation.
Yeah.
If she says, I got a better quote and I went with that firm, and you have not been at risk during that time because I've been with another firm and I simply want my money back.
Yeah.
And try it that way. Because they aren't allowed to start a new contract without permission. Because people say, I've been with the same insurance company for 10 years, which they have, but it's 10 separate years.
Yeah.
It's not a period of 10 years. It's 1 year, then another, then another, then another, because you do it annually.
Yeah.
So she can say, I've not been in contract with you. They will say, yes, you have, because you didn't write or communicate to us that you didn't want us to do that which we have in the past done and what we said we would do this time.
Yes.
But if she gets in touch with a credit card and says, oi, you've paid this money over without any permission of mine, I want it back, they can deal with it as well. But it should resolve, because the insurance company that has taken the money have not been at risk.
Yeah.
Because she's insured elsewhere. So if she photocopies her present insurance, the one that she's got, the lower quote, photocopies the certificate of insurance, which will name her vehicle or will detail her vehicle and all the rest of it, and writes to the original company and says, no, I've not contacted you because I didn't want to carry on with you. And here is the evidence that I've been insured elsewhere. Therefore, you have not been at risk, and I want my money back, and see where that leads.
Oh, very good, Alan.
All right.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Cheers. 0161228 2255. There are no guarantees in that, but I think it's a sensible way forward. The Molesworth books were written by Geoffrey Williams, or is that Willans? Geoffrey Willans. The Molesworth books were written by Geoffrey Willans, and yes, says Simon in Haywood, they were annoying. Yes, I found them utterly annoying. Well, I can't say that. That's unfair. I found the first 5 or 6 pages of the first one annoying and then threw it in the bin. So the others may have been fantastic. Indeed, the other pages in the one that I threw in the bin may have been fantastic. But there you are. Yes, it was a waste of a bit of a tree, but who gives a bugger? The Molesworth books were written by Geoffrey Willans, according to Simon, so thank you for that. So I was right. They are the ones. At school, the Nigel Molesworth books were the result of an approach by Willans to the Down With School. Oh, I see, yeah, Down With School. Do you remember? SKOOL, Down With School. So it was a follow-on from that, it would appear. Oh, dearie me. Virgin trains between Cheadle-Hulme and Adlington will be delayed up to 3/4 of an hour because they've got a broken-down train. The last thing you want to do is sit there watching a train cry. Eunice in Freckleton, hiya.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Eunice.
It's just about these 084 numbers. According to the directory,
Yeah.
and this is the latest one,
Okay.
084 numbers are charged up to 5p per minute.
Oh, right.
So you could be spending quite a lot of money.
You could. You could. What? Up to 5 pence per minute. I suppose what we have to ask then is, because I haven't the faintest idea, how much would one normally pay?
I don't know what
Yeah.
the charges are now.
Because I remember now that there was a lot of these phones that you get now that give you a number of free calls, as it were, or they say, like, I mean, this all began with Brian, didn't it, who said that he has free calls evenings and weekends, but of course he only has free calls to specific numbers. I bet if he phones an 0845 number, it may well not be free. Anyway, what we're getting from other callers is that I said earlier, because someone told me, via a text, I think, that 0845 numbers were local calls. That only applies if the call is made from a BT phone line. Obviously, if it's made from another system, or indeed made from a mobile, then it's entirely different. But thank you for that, Eunice. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We need information. It's our lifeblood. Thank you very much indeed.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Hello, Dave. I believe it's Bollard Dave.
It is.
Famous.
Half Bollard Day.
Half Bollard, yeah. What can we do for you, Mr. Bollard Dave?
Well, they phoned me up this morning, mid-morning, and offered to meet me halfway.
Meet you halfway?
On the repair costs.
God almighty, you are a lucky man.
Well, as I said to the chap I work with, I said it's not what you complain about, it's how you complain.
Well, I wouldn't have given you a bean, obviously.
Obviously. Well, I'm the one who's laughing now.
Well, I'm not sure you are, because you've got half the bill to pay, so I still think you're not laughing.
Half a bill's better than a full bill.
Half a bill's better than a full bill, I will grant you that, but looking where you're bloody going's a damn sight cheaper.
Well, it'll be the wife who's paying for it, not me.
Yeah, you want to do them backwards, don't you? I remember now.
Yeah. Men drivers don't have bumps.
No, what do they have?
They have very careful driving days.
Do have fun. Good on you. Thank you very much indeed. There you are, Dave, whose wife drove over the Bollard, went to the company, the supermarket company, and eventually they said, we'll meet you halfway. We'll pay half, you pay half. One is forced to say that if it were me, I'd have said, not a prayer. But we do like it when things move on. Chris in Southport, how about the Murray Hump? This is for the new name for the Henman Hill we are seeking. Now, you see, the Murray Hump, although you are right in that he always looks like he's got the hump, and then you're possibly right when you say maybe it's because he's Scottish, because if I was Scottish, I'd probably be pretty peed off with the world as well, but there you are. How about the Murray Hump? Well, it does carry the flavour that we seek, Chris, in Southport. It has every element except not alliteration, you see. Henman Hill, and now we've got the Murray Mound, you see? Because you see what I've done there, the alliteration, you see, the Murray Mound. But Murray Hump, I am tempted. Murray Hump. Murray Mound. It's a tricky one. We'll have to see, won't we? With those posh, you know, the Sue Barkers and all those other plum in the mouth. Just the one. All those other plum in the mouth people that do the tennis. Oh, jolly God, yes, my word, yes. Wonder what John McEnroe will call it. Loser's lot, probably. Yeah. He's the only tennis commentator I've ever heard who seemed to know anything about tennis. The others drivel on about strawberries and other drivel. Paul in Widnes, hello.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Just a reply on the 08 numbers.
Oh, yes.
I have a contract phone, and whenever I ring an 08 number, if it's an 0800 number, I am charged at what is known as the standard rate, whatever that is. I've not a clue. But any 0800 numbers that I do dial with a mobile phone, I end up being charged with.
Yeah.
It's the same with the directory inquiries. Whichever number you dial, it's exactly the same. I get charged.
I get charged for directory inquiries as well.
If I call into a call box, I'm to understand you can get them free, but
yeah.
That's another story.
I know, it was a big row that went on when they introduced charging all that time ago. But, yes, if you use a mobile phone, a contract mobile phone, or even one of those where you buy things, you know, whatever they're called.
Pay
as you go, that's it, yeah. I think even then you have to pay because somebody charges you. But if I have to call an 0800 number, my mobile phone thingy says to me, this call is not free. It reminds you. And if you ring directory inquiries on your mobile, that's brilliant. They say, it's this much, shall we connect you? And if you're driving, of course, I say yes, because that way you're not doing the hands-free, you're doing the hands-free bit.
And they charge you for that as well.
I know, it's really dear. You end up chatting away to somebody, the next thing you know, you got a bill for about £8. And you, what the hell happened there?
Well, I hope you drive with hands-free.
I do indeed.
Well, if you do get in directory inquiries and he said, no, don't send it, they'll text you. So if you go to your text messages, just flick down to the number, you can actually dial it from there.
Yeah, I know, but I can't do that when I'm driving, can I?
Well, you can if you're using hands-free, but anyway, that's another story.
Oh,
yes.
Well, how? How do you...
Oh, no. You end the call first.
Yes, but how do you then get...
the directory inquiries then text you with the number that you requested.
Yes.
So then you open your text message.
But you can't do that hands-free,
yes, you can.
Can you?
Yes,
what do you do?
Can.
How do you do it?
Listen, and I'll tell you.
Go on.
Okay. So you open up your text message.
Yeah, how do you do that without using your hand?
All right, okay. You have to use one hand, of course, to hold the phone while you do it.
Right, so you can't do it hands-free.
Oh, all right. Okay.
That's what I meant.
All right. Okay.
All right. Good on you, Paul. Cheers, mate.
That's not what I came on for.
That's all right. I think you just pleaded guilty anyway.
Yes, I know. Hand slap. Sorry.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Cheers.
No, I'm not gone yet.
Have you not?
Finished. No.
Right,
that's not what I came on for.
All right.
About 5 years ago, my wife and I had investments, and we decided because the money wasn't worth doing anything, it wasn't gaining anything. We decided we'd sack our investments and buy a piece of property instead. So we bought a house.
Yeah.
Once we bought it and got it all settled, we decided we'd rent it out. Because the idea is that when I retire, both my wife and I can move into it. In the meantime, renting it out would have helped at least pay the mortgage. So we rented it out. Our first tenant was brilliant. Had him for 6 months, and no problems. But our second tenant has had the house now for 3 years. That tenant is now gone. But that tenant has left us with a bill of around about £3,000 to put it right, to put it back into what we would call serviceable condition. We put it through an estate agent. and we paid them a management fee, X amount a month, around about £70 out of a £450 rent from the customer. Now, the customer paid rent, no problem. But 2 years into the contract, or thereabouts, we received a complaint that there was noise from the tenants. So we wrote a letter saying that unless you curb your activities and pull your socks up, I'm sorry, we're going to have to terminate your contract. All seemed to go quiet. And then there was a specific incident that happened in the newspaper. And somebody, unfortunately, became dead. And it turned out that one of our tenants happened to be one of those parties. So, to cut a long story short, the tenant vacated the property, shortchanged us on a 1 month's rent, and left us with a bill. Now, my question is, our estate agent was fully aware of what was going on, because we've heard from residents nearby since that all kinds of people were involved in local complaints, not just the police, the social services, plus. And we didn't know a thing about it until this whole thing blew up and our tenant suddenly disappeared, and then we started learning everything. What I need to know is, once we've used the estate agent to put the property right, and we're nearly finished, but we would like to know, if we take our case to the Ombudsman, would we have a case whereby we can reclaim the money we've spent because of the lack of communication between ourselves and the estate agent? We couldn't, when we found out what was going on, we couldn't throw our tenants out for a minimum of 2 months, because we would have had to give them 2 months' notice. The tenant, of course, would have to give us at least 1 month's notice to move out. But she didn't, and she just moved. And not only that, she took items of furniture that we'd left in the house, i.e. we left a couple of wardrobes in there. They went missing. The furniture that was in there, chest of drawers, most of those were broken and or destroyed. Because there was an awful lot of rubbish in the house that these people had left. So we've had to clear it. We've had to have it repainted. We've had to have we had to buy a new door because one door had gone missing. We've had...
let me stop you, because we're getting into a list of things you had to do. What you're asking really is about the relationship between you and the agent. That's and correct. You're asking the degree of liability that the agent holds correct. For not informing you of that which you believe he knew and which was material to your contract. And you're going to hate my answer, and that is, go back to your original contract, read it and see what it says there. There's no automatic, just because they're collecting the rent for you, it depends on what they are contracted to do. Now, that would need to be read with a fine-tooth comb, as they say, by a lawyer to see precisely what it means and precisely what the terms of the contract between you and the agent are.
Well, my understanding is that they have control of the house.
Your understanding will carry absolutely no weight whatsoever. What will carry weight is the contract.
Well, the understanding that I have from the contract is that they look after the house. If anything goes wrong...
How much are we talking about?
How much are we talking about?
How much are we chasing? How much do you want off the agent?
About 3,000.
Before chasing the 3,000, by all means start a small claims procedure claim for 3,000 quid. It's within the limit. But frankly, I'd talk to a lawyer before you move, because you might be throwing good money after bad.
Well, this is what I want to know.
Well, that's a lawyer's job.
Do I see a lawyer first, or do I see the Ombudsman? Because we feel that the company has not dealt with us fairly. They've not informed us of what's going on.
Well, the estate agents... I would see a lawyer first, because frankly, I would want to know that I've got a case before I start messing. I really would. I would see it. But what do I know? I'm not a landlord. You typify the problems that renting out property can bring, but I would talk to a lawyer and show him or her the paperwork and see whether they think you're whistling in the wind, in which case try the Ombudsman or whatever.
Right.
That's what I would say. Sorry, mate. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester. Headline
News. One-day teachers' strikes disrupting classes at around half of Greater Manchester's schools. Union members are holding a rally in Manchester's Albert Square. The former US Marine who abducted a schoolgirl from Wigan he'd met on the internet has been jailed for 11 years in the US. Toby Studebaker sparked an international manhunt after meeting up with the girl and flying to France with her in July 2003. And some of Britain's biggest banks have lost a test case about their overdraft charges. The High Court's ruled the Office of Fair Trading can challenge penalty charges imposed on customers. Manchester's weather, sunshine and showers, but brighter later this afternoon. Highs of 14 Celsius. I'm Richard Stead.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? Excellent.
The Radio Manchester Sports with Joanne Smith.
Lancashire's wickets are falling at Old Trafford on day 2 of their county championship match against Somerset. Chris Malaband is there.
Yes, it's very much been Somerset's morning here at Old Trafford, with 3 Lancashire wickets falling and only 43 runs added to the overnight score of 60 for no wicket. We're at a late lunch now after the start of play was delayed till 12:30. Latest Lanc score 103 for 3 after 34 overs. The wickets to tumble this morning: Ian Sutcliffe, LBW to Mark Turner for 28, a full delivery that beat Sutcliffe all ends up. Mal Loy, his early season struggles for form continue. He was LBW to Mark Turner for 4. That made it 84 for 2, and it was soon 85 for 3 when overseas man Brad Hodge nudged one from Carl Willoughby behind the stumps to Craig Kieswetter, who made no mistake taking the catch away to his right-hand side. Since then, Stuart Law has come in and joined the impressive Paul Horton, and they've guided Lancashire through to lunch. Law on 6, Horton on 53. An intriguing battle here under overcast skies. Latest score, Lancashire 103 for 3.
Thank you, Chris. Well, Manchester United have an injury concern over defender Nemanja Vidic ahead of Saturday's Premier League showdown against Chelsea. The Serb missed last night's goalless draw against Barcelona with a stomach infection, and Reds boss Sir Alex Ferguson thinks Saturday just isn't realistic.
Before we went training, they had very severe stomach pains, and we had to send him to the hospital. The local hospital just was only about a mile away from our hotel, so we felt that was the best place for him to go. They kept him in to wait till the night and then allowed him home. They've done all the tests and they think it's an infection in the stomach. I don't think he'll be ready for Saturday, but we'll certainly give him every chance.
Meanwhile, newspaper reports from Portugal are linking United's assistant, Carlos Queiroz, with a Benfica job. It's believed talks are ongoing for a move back to his homeland. Manchester City will make a decision tomorrow over the fitness of defender Richard Dunn ahead of Saturday's home game against Fulham. Manager Sven-Göran Eriksson rates his chances as 50-50 after he tweaked his hamstring in the victory over Portsmouth. Liverpool defender John Arne believes he'll come back stronger after scoring a shock injury time own goal in their semi with Chelsea on Tuesday. Risa says, "I've got my head back in place after a heavy night. I'm going to learn from this." Bolton still have Tottenham, Sunderland and Chelsea to play this season in their Premier League relegation run-in. However, Wanderers boss Gary Megson has tipped Birmingham to avoid the drop and denies it's a psychological ploy.
I think when you look at the games that Fulham, Birmingham, ourselves and Reading have got, I think that you would probably look and say that Birmingham are the favourites in this in this relegation battle to stay up because of the fact they've got 2 home games.
Huddersfield Town have appointed Stan Ternant as their new manager following the departure of Andy Ritchie. Ternant moves from Derby County, where he is assistant to Paul Gill for just 5 months. Sale Sharks fullback Ben Foden isn't letting recent speculation bother him ahead of this weekend's European Challenge Cup semi-final with Bath. Foden signed a contract with Northampton Saints for next season. He's been urged by all to stay at Edgeley Park after his fantastic recent form, which he looks to continue.
I've got such fantastic players inside and outside me. Hopefully I can still run in a few tries when it's there to be done. But for me, it's just about making no mistakes. Really, I've made a few mistakes in the last couple of games at Bristol and Wasps. I'm just trying to cut those errors out, and hopefully I can just do what comes natural to me, which is running with the ball.
Australian standoff Trent Barrett is considering asking Wigan to release him from his contract due to family reasons, according to his agent. The Former Test player is less than halfway through a 3-year deal at the JJB Stadium. Meanwhile, St Helens have made their first signing for the next season, with New Zealand utility forward Tony Pulecha agreeing a 3-year deal. Join Jack Dearden and Trevor Hunt for the Rugby League Hour tonight, live from the Willows. We'll have full match commentary on Salford's National League One game against Whitehaven. Plus hear from Saints' new coach Mick Potter, along with Paul Sculthorpe and Chief Executive Tony Colquitt.
Your Sunday Morning Lion with Mike Shaft.
Why do you think religion and politics are such sensitive subjects, and why do we shy away from them?
I suppose religion gets terribly personal. Politics is about putting your values and your vision into the way that public life operates. So you're bound to have to bring religion into politics. There's no way you can avoid it.
Mike Shaft.
How did you come to faith?
I've been brought up in that church all my life and kind of taken it for granted, really, and that's where this has sort of then started to grow.
Manchester's faith, spirit and life's difficult questions with Mike Shaft.
It's a bit off the wall, isn't it?
Sunday morning from 7 on BBC Radio Manchester.
Howdy. You all right? Good. Marcia in Cheshire. Hiya.
Hello.
What can we do for you?
Right. In December, I purchased a greenhouse from a local retailer, and the greenhouse, to say the least, wasn't very stable once it was put up. It was put up very well by an ex-engineer, and the windows, which are made of polycarbon, basically kept popping out. Now, we couldn't tighten the frame any tighter than it could actually physically be tightened, because the screws were made of aluminium and kept snapping if you over-tighten them.
Yeah, another sort, yeah.
Okay? So we had these plastic strips which went on the outside, which were supposedly to hold the actual, the panels in, the polycarbonate panels in place, but they just kept popping out. We went back to the store and basically asked them if there was anything that could be done to reinforce it. They said no. So they gave us the number, because we went back a second time. In the end, they gave us a number of the actual company and told us to contact them directly, which we did. And they said that, there was things that we could do and they would get back to us. Anyway, by that time, the wind came in January after Christmas and basically blew it down. So the whole thing collapsed, causing obviously a lot of distortion to the actual framework itself, so much so that it's now in a heap. Now, I've written to the company and voiced my concerns, and because they won't give us a refund, they won't give us an exchange. So I've written directly to the company and customer services and explained
Are we still with the manufacturer here?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
And explain that we had complained about it prior to, but their stance is that they're saying it is all down to the hand of God.
Well...
and that's what I wanted to ask you was, can they do that?
Well, in the past, insurance companies have said that they will not insure against acts of God. And if God sends a really extraordinary large wind one day that no one could have predicted, then that's not a reasonable thing to ask it to withstand. If it's meant to withstand... Well, it is. A greenhouse is meant to withstand just average winds, just the general winds. If you'd got a force 9 gale and it blew down, then that would be a matter for your insurance company, not a matter for the people who built it. Your argument is that it was insubstantial at the beginning. Now, first of all, the manufacturer is a matter of supreme irrelevance. What you should be dealing with is the people you bought it from, the retailer.
That's what they said in the end.
Indeed, they were right, and you should have stuck with them all the way along. However, go back to the retailer, say, we told you about this greenhouse, you put us onto the manufacturer is not interested, and frankly, we don't bother either. We're going to talk to you. You're the retailer. If anyone's liable, you are. You sold us faulty goods, and we want our money back. If they say no, sue them. How much did you pay for it? How much did you pay for it?
Well, it came to about $360.
How did you pay?
Switch.
Switch. All right. Well, which? Debit card? Was it a Visa debit card or a Master debit?
Maestro Maestro, is it? Yeah.
I've no idea.
Maestro, yeah.
Visa Maestro, well, you might still be protected, it depends, but in the end, the deal is that you bought it off the retailer. If anyone's liable, they are.
And can they use the term hand of God?
Well, they can use it, but whether the courts will agree with them is another matter. I mean, they could say that...
They've written back to me and completely ignored my comments with regards to the fact that we've been back to the store on 2 occasions and complained about
Well,
it.
but what have they actually said about... Well, I don't care what they've ignored. What have they said they're going to do?
Nothing.
And what reason...
That's the hand of God.
Right, well, get back onto them and say, well, it might be the hand of God, but I'm going to take you to court where you can swear on his book. It's called the bloody Bible. Give me my money back or I sue you, and we'll see whether the judge is Christian or not.
Right,
So that's what you do. You tell them that if they do not recompense you in full for the faulty goods they sold to you, you will sue them. And if their defence is it was the hand of God, then get a weather report for the day it blew down and see whether God sent a really, really, really bad wind.
It was windy.
Well,
It was
just
windy,
get a
but
weather
still.
report. Get a weather report for when you go to court. So when they say it was a hand of God, and you say actually it was blowing at force 3, yeah, 4-3, yeah. If of course they're sending, you get a weather report, and the weather report says, well, actually, it was a force 20 gale, and it blew the roofs off all the houses nearby, then it's a matter for your insurance company because of the horrible wind.
Yeah, my insurance said because it's an outbuilding, it's not attached to the
Right, well,
house.
in that case, they're saying it's not covered by your policy. But that would be who would be dealing with it if that's what it was. But you're saying, no, it's not a matter of an act of God. What it actually is it was crap.
Faulty. Yeah.
Right, that's what you're saying. It was crap before it was windy. We complained before it was windy that it wasn't stopping.
Their only other point was that they've had no other complaints with regard to...
Well, that doesn't matter. They're not all crap. You only got one crap one. If they're all crap, you'd be out of business. You've sold me a crap one. There was something wrong with it. They will then argue, their next defence will be, well, it wasn't put up properly. And I don't know where you go with that.
Well, it was.
Well, of course you'd say that. You're not going to say it wasn't, but that will be their next position. But go back to them and say, this thing, we put it up according to the instructions, and the first slight wind it fell down. But before that, we'd told you it was unstable. And you passed us on to the manufacturer, which is actually failing to honour your obligations under the consumer legislation. So I want my money back, and if I don't get my money back, I'll ask a judge to tell you to give it me. OK?
Thank you very much, Alan.
And if you still don't get it back, take out a claim form against them. You can do it on the net, you can do it at the local court, but take a claim form out against them and effectively sue them for the brass. All right?
Lovely.
Good on ya. 0161 228 2255. Terry from Tilsley. I have only one thing to say about the teachers' strike. He said they can't be intelligent. If I was going to strike, then I wouldn't pick a Thursday. I'd pick a Friday and make a nice long weekend of it. But that might be that they're extremely bright and realise that people like you, if they'd have gone out on Friday, Terry would say, yeah, they're just making a long weekend. So they do it on Thursday. And also, of course, when you're having a strike, you usually want to inconvenience somebody. And if it had been a Friday, all the parents would have said, well, we'll make a long weekend of it and wouldn't have bothered. So, no, if you're going to strike, you might as well strike where it screws everybody. Yeah, so no, I don't think they're idiots for doing Thursday. That's for sure. This 0845 has proved to be more interesting than it should. Listen to this. This is from... Oh, dear. Who's it from? Justin. Good day to you. 0845 numbers equate to somebody dialing a local number, i.e. the same area code, 0161, 0151 or whatever. So if I lived in John O'Groats and dialed a company in Land's End and used the standard dial number, it would cost the national rate. However, if the Land's End number was an 0845 number, well, it would be the same as me ringing my neighbour in John O'Groats. That's okay. That's surely cleared it up as far as it can go. Of course it is. Chris in Middleton. Calls to 0845 numbers cost 6 pence plus up to 2 pence per minute from a BT Together landline. Mobile and other providers' charges may vary. This is quite fun. I'm enjoying this. Yes. Keith, my mobile contract was originally free to 0800 numbers. My internet access at the same time was 0800 dial-up. In my Hackney and Blackpool, I connected my laptop to a webcam and my mobile onto the internet for up to 6 hours at a time. I had a website. The webcam was on the dash facing forward. You could log in and see where I was driving. The mobile company got annoyed and started charging me a penny a minute, which wasn't too bad. Then they got more annoyed and started charging me 10 pence a minute, so I stopped. I may be one of the causes of 0800 numbers being charged for. Oh, we all love you. Yes, we'll be picking you out in your cab. Quite so. Cliff is a cruel and wicked man, if I may say so. Isn't it possible, now steady now, isn't it possible that Mr. Bollard man just rang you about his settlement because he was fed up of people laughing at him and thought that it was the best way to get his own back? I.e., he didn't really get offered anything, he was making it up. And I thought I was cynical. Dear God, I believe everybody who comes on here. I just don't expect them to believe me. Ta-da now.
Tonight from 10 with me, Sam Walker, a look back at the big news stories of the day with comedian Luke Conran.